when did you fall in love with hip hop?
When did I fall in love with hip hop?
When did you first fall in love?
When did I first fall in love with hip hop? I must have been 7, 8 years old. I would say it was around 93, 94, something around that time period when there were artists who were coming in the game, such as Nas and the Notorious B.I.G., Outkast, Common. There was also a group out of Cleveland by the name of Bone Thugs and Harmony, and as young children coming up, we loved Bone. We did. We didn't even think it was because they were hometown heroes. We just loved the melodies and all their different voices. You had the high-pitched voice, you had the Luther Vandross voice, with Crazy, Lazy, Busy, Wish, Flesh. Everybody brought something different to the table, and it was a different type of vibe that you didn't see in hip-hop. But I really, as solo artists, you got to give it up to Tupac and Nas. I think Nas's Illmatic is the best 40 minutes on record out of any other hip-hop album I can think of.
What part of hip-hop culture can you recall that was a major impact in your life? In parentheses, dance, fashion, art, etc.
I think, for me, spoken word. I've always loved the beat that goes along with hip-hop, the instrumentals, producers such as DJ Premier, No ID, Jay Dilla. I love what they do, but to me personally, what touched me more than anything is the MC, and what they do as artists is just incredible. The content of a lot of the things that they highlight, whether it's issues in their community or in their family life, that's what really touched me, because I felt like a lot of things that were going on in hip-hop culture I could relate with. And that's why I gravitated toward the music, because a lot of the things that they were talking about, I felt like they were talking to me.
What is your all-time favorite hip-hop record? Thank you,
My all-time, we can edit this later, that's all right. My all-time favorite hip-hop record, I would have to say, is Illmatic by Nas. Like I said before, it's the best 40 minutes on record that I can think of. And
by record, we mean by actual song.
Song.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. That's why we got Pro to edit this later, right?
Yeah.
Okay. My favorite hip-hop song of all time to this day, and I think it will be forever my favorite song, is Juicy by the Notorious B.I.G. Every time I hear that song, I'm just like, man, it's that feel-good song, like, I'm gonna make it, man. I'm gonna make it.
Who's your favorite hip-hop artist?
My favorite hip-hop artist is Nas, without question. I feel like his longevity in the game is matched by no other. He's had so many great albums. He came out of the scene in 1994 with Illmatic, and he's stayed strong ever since. And he is who I would say is definitely my favorite solo artist in hip-hop.
Who was your favorite hip-hop group?
My favorite hip-hop group of all time would have to be Bone. Bone Thugs and Harmony is my favorite group of all time. And they may not be the same type of socially conscious music that you would think of with a Common or a Nas or a Talib Kweli or Mos Def. But I think a lot of the music that we listen to, you identify with it because it's a certain time period of your life. So Bone, they were in my life when I was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, and that's what we were on. We were, just just some young kids around the way listening to Bone. And as we got older, it wasn't so much about, you know, how they were rapping or you know, the beat, but we got more into the lyrics, and that's when we got a little bit older. We started to get hip to artists like Mos Def and Talib Kweli. But my favorite group of all time, and you know, I don't care what they do now or the type of music they come out with now, I can always go back to 1995, East 1999 Eternal, turn that on, and it brings me back to my childhood.
What was your favorite hip hop video?
Oh, man. Favorite hip hop video. You gotta give me a second for this one. You know, I don't know if I have a favorite hip hop video, but I do remember, you know, in the mid-90s, one that stands out in my mind for some reason is Naughty by Nature's Feel Me Flow. I don't know why. I don't know why that comes to my mind. But Feel Me Flow by Naughty by Nature, it just seemed like, man, they were having a lot of fun back then. They were having a lot of fun back then.
Can you express the type of feeling hip hop brings to you?
The type of feeling hip hop brings to me? I really don't know what I would do without hip hop. Hip hop has progressed me as a writer. A lot of the artists who I emulate, you know, that's who I look to when I'm writing my own material, as a journalist, as a poet. The MCs who I grew up listening to, whether it be some of the names that I mentioned before, Talib Kweli, Mos Def, Common, Nas, I look to their lyrics to inspire me to write a lot of the spoken word poetry that I write to this day, most definitely.
Hip hop comes with good and ugly elements when it comes to music. Today, do you feel the bad elements of hip hop overweigh the good?
I think the bad elements of hip hop do outweigh the good, but at the same time, there has always been what we would consider quote unquote bad rap and quote unquote good hip hop. I was fortunate to be able to filter out the bad as I was growing up listening to certain music and know that just because this artist is talking about slanging drugs, or this artist is talking about, you know, degrading women and calling them out their name, that doesn't mean that as a writer that I or anybody else should do that. So I was fortunate enough to know back then that, you know, there's certain things within hip hop music that I need to filter out. But there's always a time and place for certain hip hop songs. There's a time and place for F the Police. There's a time and place for Fight the Power. But then there's also a time and place for, you know, One Mic. There's a time and place for One Mic, and there's also a time and place for It Ain't Hard to Tell. There's a time and place for Feel Me Flow. There's a time and place for I Get Around. There's a time and place for all those songs, and that's what I think is so beautiful about hip-hop, is you can't box it into one thing. You can't box it into one thing, because whether it's Southern rap, whether it's Midwest rap, East Coast, West Coast, everybody in the game brings something different to the table. And what I hope that a lot of artists nowadays understand is where the history comes from, and to check the roots of this music, because I think that's what we're dealing with right now, what we're suffering with right now, is they don't know the rich history of the music, of the culture, and that's why it's in the state, hip-hop is in the state that it's in now. I'm not happy with the state that it's in right now, but I don't think that it's over. I mean, I feel like as long as we have artists like the ones that I previously mentioned still doing things in the game, it's going to inspire other artists like them to end up doing something as well.
In today's society, hip-hop is illustrated in many media outlets. Do you
Make sure that this shutter is open too. We good?
Yeah,
We're good?
we're good.
All right.
In today's society, hip-hop is illustrated in many media outlets. Do you think this is good or bad for hip-hop?
I'm sorry, Deja. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. In today's society, hip-hop is illustrated in many media outlets. Do you think this is good or bad for hip-hop?
I think hip-hop needs to utilize those different media outlets in a way that can be positive for them. I think that it depends on what type of music the artist is putting out there. It could be very detrimental to the culture if that's all we see is certain images. You know, if that's all we see is Nelly Tip Drill, then we have a problem in hip-hop. We have a huge problem in hip-hop. There needs to be a balance. There really needs to be a balance. I wish there'd be more good than bad. There needs to be a balance. A lot of times, what the artists are talking about, it's also a reflection of what's going on in the world, and vice versa, you know. But art definitely imitates life, and the media is just the messenger, man. You know, the media is just getting the word out about what is going on, and hip-hop needs to use different media outlets to its advantage as far as getting things done in the community. If there's some things you want to talk about in your song, there's some social issues you want to talk about, get it out there. Make music videos about it, make songs about it. Yeah, those things need to be broadcasted to a wide audience. Just because, you know, hip-hop doesn't have to be underground. Hip-hop doesn't have to be underground to be cool, you know? I think there's a misconception with that hip-hop has to be underground to be cool. No, something could be cool and mainstream, but we need to make sure that the type of things that we put out there in the mainstream is something that we want future generations to see.
Thank you.
Come on, we're just getting started. You got